Justin, thanks so much for joining us, mate. We've had a couple of days to sit and think about this. So, your impressions now after watching the All Blacks lose to France are what?
Yeah, look, obviously disappointing for the All Blacks because when we last spoke, Marty, we talked about the fact that I felt certainly what they needed to do is make a statement in this tournament and go out and create a little bit of doubt amongst the home side as well, being the favourites, and it didn't happen, did it? Look, they got out of the gates not too bad, but then things just went a little wobbly, and the concerning thing is when they did start to wobble, it just completely fell off the rails. And yeah, there's now this sort of weird period where they've got 3 games coming up through the rest of pool play that they should win comfortably. So the thinking in my mindset is, since I've had a time to digest, where do they go with team selection from now to when they get to a quarterfinal knockout situation in the Rugby World Cup?
Yeah, look, I think it's the worst draw that any team could ever have. To me, it's effectively like 3 training runs. I mean, this is the All Blacks. We're not going to lose to Namibia, Uruguay and Italy. We've got a week's break in between those matches. And we saw what happened in between playing Australia and then that huge big month gap before we played the Springboks. That's what I fear, mate. I mean, because Ian Foster said we were rusty. I mean, how do we, as you say, how do we rest and recycle, rotate our players and get them to be battle-hardened by the time the quarterfinal comes?
Yeah, absolutely right. And so my thinking in it is like, basically, barring injury, the team that's going to start that quarterfinal just needs to play. And we've banged this drum, haven't we, you and I, over the course of the year. But there's no hiding from it. They've got to just go out there and try and create some rhythm and get some real good synergy, so that when they do hit that game, they've actually been battle-hardened for 3 weeks. Yes, not against the quality of opposition that South Africa and Ireland and possibly even the likes of Wales are going to be encountering, but at least the side is starting to gel. And so what he's got to do then is decide about whether or not he wants to experiment, because that doesn't play in with the mix of what I've just said. Like, if you're going to stick with the team that played against France, obviously there'll be some changes because of a couple of key injuries. Then you can't afford to say, oh, well, we'll give Leicester Fainga'anuku a go on the wing, or we'll push Will Jordan back to fullback, or we may try sort of somebody else at 12, whatever it might be. It doesn't give you the option to do that. So that's the hard element in what he's got to make his decisions about. Look at Ireland. Ireland put out their best side, and man, they look good for it. And they're not afraid. Andy Farrell's not afraid to do that. And the thing about Ireland is, from week to week what team they're going to select, and they know each other well. And they just went out there with their method. Johnny Sexton, the architect, and did the job. Yes, it was only Romania, but he didn't button off Andy Farrell in his selections. Is that Ian Foster's mindset?
Justin, we're at this stage as well. There's a really interesting comment from Jason Ryan today at the press conference saying, when we get our full deck back, we can compete. I know that. What he's intimating is that those injured players that are missing are absolutely vital to the All Blacks. I've sat there and almost demanded in my own mind that, hey, when you select a squad of 33, that every player has got to be interchangeable. And if you aren't up to that level, then what the hell are you doing there? But I think there is a distinct gap between Frizzell playing and the next guy playing, between Brodie playing, the next guy playing. Are we at a stage now where the replacements just aren't as good as the A team?
Yeah, we are. And let's not beat about the bush on it. Like, honestly, the French were missing 4 of their top players, but they didn't look like they missed a beat, did they?
No.
They had a new half pairing in Jalibert and Dupont. They went out there, they orchestrated the game plan really, really well. New centres, they slotted in okay. They were missing second rowers, but it didn't have an effect on them. And their bench came on, and their bench absolutely changed the game and added impetus into the game. Whereas we, obviously with the same amount of injuries, probably not even as many, we didn't look like we had the same rhythm. And then when our bench came on, it didn't change the game. And so you go, well, why are these sides having so much depth when we're not? And that's why I have to say that what we've got to do is we've got to find that 23, find it really quickly, and make sure that when those reserves, who know they're reserves, don't beat around the whitewash about it. I know I've used that before, but don't deceive them. Say, hey, look, you're going to be in the 23, but your job is in the 63rd minute. You come on, and this is what I want you doing. And they know their roles, and the starting 15 know their roles. I think that's where the All Blacks need to get to. That's the way that the best teams in the world at the moment are functioning, and they know that they can trust their depth. I don't think we can trust our depth at the moment, and that's very evident when we get into trouble on the rugby field, because unlike good rugby teams or All Black teams in the past, when we find ourselves in trouble, we can't dig ourselves out of the hole.
No, we can't.
We fall into it deeper.
Justin Marshall's with us, 81 tests for the All Blacks in France, for SuperSport for South Africa. Obviously, the fallout always blames Ian Foster in this country. It's all Fozzie's fault, all of these records. And, yet another record. I don't need to tell you this, where it's a first loss in pool play following on the back of the record loss against South Africa, losing to Ireland, Argentina, all of these things. Justin, you played enough tests for the All Blacks. Is it the coach's fault? When things go wrong on the field, as a player, what are you thinking and feeling? You can't look at the coach and go, help me. You've got to deal with it yourself. I always put the responsibility back first and foremost to the players. Am I wrong on this?
You're not completely wrong, but also the players should be encouraged to play instinctively. And when that game started to turn and the momentum switched to France's favour, sort of in that sort of middle part of the second half, and then there's a 20-minute water break, and I remember thinking to myself, okay, Will Jordan's on in the sin bin at this stage, but we've got a water break. The group needs to get together. We're kicking too much ball away. Right, how are we going to macro manage the 10 minutes now where we don't let the game get away from us? So they had that moment, which is not normal in a game, but because of the mandatory water breaks because of the temperatures, that's where your senior players, and for goodness sake, that's when the messages from upstairs are coming down as well. And everybody goes, right, in that period after that, they made 3 or 4 handling errors. They looked frantic. They didn't look like a composed side. And I'm just thinking, well, where is that breaking down? Is that the message came from the coaching box to say, do this, and they didn't do it? Or equally, did the players decide to take control and then they were the architects of their own demise because they literally made errors, made poor decisions to let the French continue their momentum and stay in the game, control the game. So there's too much leadership in there, Marty, for
that's what I'm
things
thinking.
not to be right.
Yeah.
Too many guys gone. Some of them are in their third World Cups, bloody hell.
Discipline, again, so many penalties. We saw that against South Africa. Was there anything similar between the two games, the way that we played, that you're looking at going, okay, we've got to fix that right now?
I think discipline's been a major problem for the All Blacks when we've got ourselves into test matches and found ourselves in trouble. And other teams in the world seem to be on top of that. I think Ireland are the most disciplined team in the world, I believe, and have been consistently for a couple of years. They don't often make errors, judgmental errors. They don't get themselves in trouble with the referee. They don't make poor decisions at clean-outs. They don't do stupid neck rolls. When there's a contest in the air, they make good decisions. I'm all for making sure that you're robust and you're energetic and you're actually approaching everything, whether it's a breakdown, it's a scrum, it's a high ball in the air, it's actually a box kick, whatever it might be, you're doing it to perfection. But the All Blacks seem to just be a little off in that department, where a reckless player will all of a sudden just bounce out and do something that is out of character, but it has a massive effect on the team. Discipline is a big part of why the game plan is unable to flow and why they're running themselves into problems.
Have we lost our aura, our invincibility? I'm just asking you these questions because these are all the things that get tossed around, my side of the microphone. It's like, oh my God, the All Blacks, the bubble's been brilliant. I suppose I'm asking, can we rebound from this? Can we actually collectively get it together and go on and win this tournament and do what South Africa did in Tokyo, losing a game and winning?
Absolutely we can.
Great.
And I believe in that aura, and I believe in this team, and I believe in those players, and I believe in the All Black brand and our attitude and our ability to win big games and our ability to win Rugby World Cups. I'm a believer, and I know that this team can do it. Rest of the world, not so. Making my way around France since that game, bumping heads with former players, they are saying the same things as the questions that you're asking me. They're asking me as well. They're going, why are they kicking the ball away so much? Why are they not quite getting their substitutes right? Why are they having discipline? Like other teams and other people in general are seeing the All Blacks not with that aura. So look, I feel they still have it. I feel they've still got the ability, this team, to bring out those qualities that make All Blacks and make us the country that we are, and the competitors that we are. But in answer to your question, that's my personal opinion. But making my way around, and I was legends today: George Gregan, Jean de Villiers, John Smith, like Skulk Berger. All these guys were saying, what's going on with the All Blacks at the moment? They are asking those questions. So if those guys are asking those questions, knowing that they've played test matches against the All Blacks and what they expect from the All Blacks, then something's slightly off, isn't it?
Couple of quick questions before we let you go. Tom Curry goes up before the judiciary. Tonight it is, French time. That's got to be overturned, doesn't it? I mean, look, we saw the one, Creel against South Africa, Scotland, and virtually the same thing. I mean, that really, I'm still just flummoxed as to how the TMO sat there, looked at that. And I'm wondering whether it's because they play so many goddamn slow-mo replays. Do it in real time and assess it in real time, and you'd see, hey, it's an accident.
Yeah, absolutely. And could have been, catastrophic, because, you never know what that's going to do to a game. So they've got to make sure that they're on point with those decisions. And what the review system was supposed to bring in was that ability to take time and to actually assess it. And when we say take time, there's a mandate that they're looking at, and all the factors are incorporated into that mandate. Let's throw Will Jordan's situation. Looked bad, was bad, he got it wrong. But one of the things that they look at is, did the player land dangerously or safely? And they looked at it, and he landed safely. So Will Jordan didn't get upgraded to a red card. So in all of those things, how on earth did Curry be different from Creel? So, yeah, absolutely. It's a worry that they've got the time, they've got the mandate, that they can't get the consistency right, because it could be massively costly in a Rugby World Cup if something like this was to go wrong like it did at the weekend.
Final question. Thank you so much for your time as always, mate. Love talking to you about this stuff. Wales versus Fiji. England, Argentina. I don't care what anyone says. I thought England were damn brilliant in that game. When you're down a man, and this is the thing I also get frustrated with the All Blacks. Justin, you played under... I mean, people have got such short memories. This is how I always view the All Blacks. We get the ball with Fitzy. Get down there and score some points, come back to halfway. Get the ball, get back down there and score some points. Point to the scoreboard and go, look, we're up by 2 tries, losers. What are you going to do, score 3 against us? Scoreboard pressure. That's what the Poms did, mate. They just kept kicking points. Why aren't we doing that? Just keep ticking the board over.
Yeah, they did. And Ford did it really, really well. He recognised when they'd actually extended all their resources, and the Argentinians had regrouped, so he just banged over 3. He was in the perfect position. They were kind of on the front foot, and so he just thought, what we're going to do is keep accumulating, and then you're going to have to try and catch us. And it was really sensible rugby. So it's another fault of the All Blacks at the weekend. They spent so much more time inside the France's 22 than what the French did in the All Blacks in that first half. In fact, I think French only entered in the All Blacks 22 if once. That'd be, hard for me to remember. Twice, I don't think so. We spent so much time in there, but literally did not come away with enough points for all that pressure. Good teams, like you say, go down there and they maximise that zone and they come away with some form of points. And that's not what the All Blacks are not doing. But yeah, I agree with you. England that's as ruthless as I've seen them in a long time. As physical I've seen them. Tuolangi and co were in people's faces. Mate, they took the game to Argentina and they absolutely hammered them.
Final one was Fiji versus Wales. What a game, mate. What a great game. What a brilliant... Yeah, the ending. I mean, the whole world, we were holding our breath, praying for that pass to stick, weren't we?
We were. I do have to admit, though, I do have some passion for Wales. My daughter was born there. I played there. They're great people. They love their rugby. Obviously I love the Fijian way and the idea of the way that they play the game, and I've got great mates that are coaching that side as well. It was a bit of a hard one for me, a bit of a heartstring, but what a great game of rugby. There's no doubt about the fact that Warren Gatlin and the Welsh will be really, really relieved, because that was a must-win game for them. I know the Fijians are targeted, but yeah, they're still going to cause somebody a headache in that pool, and they're still not out of contention to qualify, the Fijians. So keep your eye on that pool. That's going to be really interesting how that plays out.
You're giving us a hell of a lot of time. Really generous of you again, mate. We'll talk next week. Thank you so much.
Thanks, mate.